Hello and welcome to this edition of the Alaska Report. I'm Senator Lisa Murkowski. My guest this month is Mayor Edward Itta of the North Slope Borough. Now, let me just say right at the start that Mayor Itta has become quite a celebrity. Last June, he was on the cover of Parade magazine, and in the story, they call him, quote, maybe one of America's most powerful mayors, but you've probably never heard of him, close quote. But we here in Alaska, we sure know who Mayor Itta is, and I appreciate him coming on to my Alaska Report as our guest today. Mayor Itta was elected mayor of the North Slope Borough in November of 2005, but has been involved with his regional government for the past 2 decades. He's a veteran of the U.S. Navy. Mayor Itta is also a hunter and whaling captain and is the past president and a current member of the Borough Whaling Captains Association. And he's also former commissioner of the Alaska Whaling Commission. Mr. Mayor, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show here today. Welcome to Washington, D.C., although you have been a frequent visitor in these past few years. So nice to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Senator, and let me say that I'm just so proud to be a part of your campaign when you made history.
Well, we made it together.
Okay,
those of you at
did.
the top
So
of the world and
just
working
so
all
proud
over.
of you and just wonderful for us. So we thank you for making the decision you did. We're right there with you. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you. We've got a lot of work to do together, and we've been working together for the past handful of years as you have been mayor of the North Slope Borough, and the work that you have done on behalf of your constituents. I think Alaskans have come to appreciate some of what you have to balance as mayor up north. When you were a young man or young child growing up, very, very different place than the area that you now are the mayor of. Can you give our viewers just a little bit of a sense of what has happened within the North Slope Borough since the time that you were young and now governing as mayor? What have you seen?
I'd say it's quite a contrast to what it is today and what it was when I was growing up, because I grew up with dog teams and having to haul in ice and melting ice and having to find firewood and burning blubber.
Was that your source of energy then, to keep warm?
Yes, when I was growing up. We didn't have electricity back then. We had kerosene lamps and whatnot, but my father was still virtually living off the land to support us, his family, trapping and hunting to put food on the table. So between then, when I was a young kid growing up, to what it is today, to the flip of a switch to have lights on, and in Borough having natural gas to run furnaces, and now with the technology of the internet and whatnot hooking on to the rest of the world, it's been pretty dramatic. It really has. So
happened in a generation there.
Yes, and I sometimes realize that I think I've gone through a lot of change, my generation. I just go back to my father's generation, who was born and raised at the eastern end of Tishukbuk, pretty close to Prudhoe Bay. Young, growing up there in their cabin, no imports, no anything. They just lived off the land and the ocean over there. And I give them, he's a member of what Dr. Tom Brokaw called the greatest generation, that they saw the biggest change. But from my father's perspective, my mother, bless her heart, is still alive today. What they have seen to what it is today is something, because my father didn't have contact with the Western people until he was 6 years old. So it's quite a contrast.
How do you balance that? Because truly, as a whaling captain, you continue to live a subsistence lifestyle to a certain extent in terms of the hunting that goes on. But you have within your area the largest source of oil that is being produced within the North Slope Borough and the confines up on the North Slope, there at Prudhoe. You've got the opportunity for revenues and jobs, but it is trying to balance that with a subsistence lifestyle, and to a certain extent something that hasn't changed from your father's generation. How difficult is that to provide that balance?
Well, it's not easy. Let me say that. I don't want to paint a rosy picture, and yet we have stepped up to the challenge of working with industry successfully for almost 40 years now onshore. We were instrumental in helping to develop Prudhoe Bay and all other associated infrastructure with that, because as the borough, thank you to our elders who had the vision to create the North Slope Borough and generate a tax base for us that we're so fortunate we're able to tax that and get what we have these days, which is airports, roads, landfills, health clinics, schools, jobs.
Affordable energy.
Yes, affordable energy, and yet keep our way of life, protect the land, protect the animals, and we've been able to do that largely successfully. And it's been a challenge, quite a few steps of the way, and it continues to be, but we have proven that we can coexist with industry and also cope with the changes that have happened in since the discovery of oil in Prudhoe Bay. The amount of the change, the money created for us, and the essentially going from a subsistence-based economy to a cash economy. So
has there been a trade-off there between subsistence and jobs, or do you believe that they can coexist?
I don't know about a trade-off. I think it's a natural progression of things, of change that has happened to us, and I believe to this day that if there's anything that Inupiaq Eskimos are good at, it's adapting to change, no matter what it may be and the challenge. So I have a lot of gratitude and respect for our forebears who had the vision and the ability to learn very quickly how to handle this transition from one age virtually to another in the space of 2 generations. What has been taken for granted down here for 300 years, 200 for sure, is what we're experiencing now. Clean water, flush toilets, great schools, and airports, everything. So the change has been pretty dramatic, and yet it has had its impact on us as a people. The concerns of loss of family values or the erosion of family values, and very concerning is also the loss or gradual loss of our language, the ability to speak Inupiaq. So with the good has come the bad. We have social issues also that I like to use this analogy. My grandfather and grandmother and their children, they didn't deal with alcoholism or the results of the negative things that come with the abuse of alcohol and drugs, which we're faced with now too. So there's different challenges, and yet while so much time is spent on those negative activities, I just want to assure everybody that there are so many fine families, so many good things going on up there, and we're so blessed and thankful for what we have up there. So we're fortunate, and I never hesitate to say thank you to everybody.
Well, you have remarkable people that you represent as mayor and that I'm fortunate to represent here in the United States Senate. What would you say? You've listed off some of the social problems that you face. You've talked about, the balance between subsistence and moving into that cash economy and finding jobs. You clearly deal with the federal government on many different fronts in terms of your ability to to live up north. What would you say your greatest challenge as mayor of the North Slope Borough is right now?
The greatest challenge as mayor of the North Slope Borough, I believe, has been to educate the powers that be, if you will, whether they're state or federal agencies in particular, about who we are and what we're faced with and our way of life, and giving them a picture of who we are as a people, that there's real people living up there for thousands of years, and that we have value. Our traditional knowledge has a lot of value to what is being so much activity now, and not just oil and gas, but with climate change upon us, impending fisheries, tourism, cruise ships, marine transportation, and events offshore now. And I've spent a lot of time meeting with as many officials as I can that lead agencies, whether it be the Department of Interior, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Department of Energy, the various EPAs, just a whole myriad of agencies down here. And the biggest challenge has been to give them a perspective of who we are and what we do, that we're virtually living in two worlds, and what the subsistence way of life is, and acknowledging that we're now in a cash-based economy, and how critical and crucial safe production and development of resources are to us to protect our not only land, but the ocean. The Senator, as you know, as Inupiaq Eskimos, we're tied intimately to both. You cannot say that you're an Inupiaq and not feel you're a part of the ocean and the land. So we're one and the same, and that's why we have so much passion for protecting, doing everything we can to ensure our way of life continues, and balance that with what's happening to us as we go into the 21st century. So.
Let me ask you about that, because as we all know, 187,000 square miles of area up north has been designated as critical habitat for protection of the polar bear. This is an issue that is again in controversy. The state has filed suit, and the North Slope Borough has joined with others and indicated that you intend to sue as well on this designation. Can you tell us a little bit as to what this designation of critical habitat might mean to you and those of you that live and work in the North Slope Borough?
Okay. And thank you for that question, because it's currently ongoing now, and I'm glad to say we're working real closely with ASRC, our regional corporation, and I decided to go ahead and join forces with them, along with village corporations. I think virtually all the village corporations are in this notice of intent to litigate the critical habitat designation. The first and foremost I would like to say is very disappointing in how I and my staff were notified that something of this scale was happening to us. I got a call about 2 or 3 hours from the Alaska Region Office of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that said, hey, we're about ready to make a major press announcement announcing critical habitat in regards to the polar bear listing as threatened. I said, oh, okay, I'll keep an eye out. few hours later, the notice comes out, and it's, as you said, 188,000 square miles, an area
Huge.
the size of California. And I was just about, if I hadn't gotten a call, I would have found out just from the media. And that is the first problem, that nobody bothered to come up to tell us or talk with us what this designation means. Although we were assured sometime with the comments and input that we'd had on those public notices, that assurances were made to us that, oh, your subsistence way of life will not be touched. Right. But guess what? Within the critical habitat designation, 3 of our communities, Wainwright, Point Lay, and Point Hope, are within the critical habitat. So Kaktovik from on the west is in there. Of course, all the barrier islands includes Borough. But in particular, case in point is a new airport that needs to get built in Kaktovik. We don't know what this designation means in way of having to comply, because nobody has come up to tell us. And that is such a shame, I think, that it has to come to this, because I do not believe in litigation as the answer. But in some cases, we had to. I have no recourse, I don't believe, because with the impending issues of the walrus, the bearded seal, and the ring seal, what does all this mean? Nobody has come up to tell us and give us the particulars. So definitely going to affect our way of life for gathering subsistence resources, whether they be marine mammals or caribou, maybe fishing right off the coast. So a vast area with no, what I consider, no real logic to it. Very simply put, how does this ruling create more ice for the polar bear? It doesn't. How does this increase polar bear populations? It doesn't. And lastly, we know roughly where the polar bears den along the coast, and the information, as best as I can understand it, was a data set of 4 to 5 years on the polar bear itself and about 20 years of sea ice to make this broad sweeping designation 45 to 100 years into the future. I mean, really, how realistic is that? That's not based on science as far as I'm concerned. It's science fiction. It just irritates me no end. But I'm down here and I'm talking with the agencies, which I think is so important to give our perspective of, we're not the ones, Inupiaq Eskimos, the ones who live up there, that are responsible for the state of the polar bear. The polar bears are brothers and sisters. We take care of each other. The polar bears are multiplying. They're having 3 at a time, the sows. Some of those polar bears so fat their belly is just about rubbing on the ice. Healthy. So it defies logic, at the very least, what has happened, but yet we bear the brunt of these actions, and that's so frustrating, and I'll end with that.
Well, no, I appreciate the detail with which you have given this. I think it is important to recognize that as a people, you are the ones that are immediately impacted by this designation. And the fact that this designation has been made without a level of consultation, without the kind of the give and the take and the back and forth that is so critical, it's so important. And yet I think we see this far too often in our state, whether it is those of you that live up on the North Slope that are affected by this designation, or those that live in the Tongass National Forest who are impacted by a decision that comes out of an agency that directly impacts those Alaskans that live there for their food, for their sustenance, for their livelihoods. And yet we have these agencies that really have very little communication with us.
And I couldn't agree more. The heavy-handedness, the overreaching. Case in point that I didn't mention is with our regional corporation, ASRC, have swaths of land that are private lands. Also the village corporations within those communities I mentioned have private lands, not even factored in to those decisions. So economic opportunity, I think, gets stifled, whatever that may be, resource development of any kind. So in a sense, very often as we did with as we continue to do with the bowhead whale on the international level, that we felt like pawns. You know, our way of life is, it'll be okay, we'll go ahead and do this. But come on, this is the 21st century. We have internet. I mean, I have access, we have access, and it's just frustrating, but at the same time, I have a sense of hope into the future that agencies are starting to respond positively, albeit a little behind the curve yet. But I've pushed for the 8 points that I have relative to offshore. We are doing well onshore, but I get frustrated with impending action or inaction. For example, on the 1002 area in Anwar, that now there's talk of making it wilderness. Our CD5 access to NPRA has been denied a permit, which would put more oil in the pipeline. NPRA has been downgraded from 10 billion to less than $1 billion in grade. I don't really know what that means, but my concern as mayor, that none of my other fellow colleagues have that lead various groups in the North Slope, is that as mayor of the North Slope Borough, I'm responsible for the economic well-being of our region, which has been driven by oil and gas, and I'm not ashamed of that. We are dependent on oil and gas, and yet I continue to advocate for the highest standards if there's going to be any operations offshore to protect our way of life. And it's a very challenging issue to balance what I think needs to happen out there. And I continue to advocate for the highest standard because it is all brand new. It's the frontier.
Well, what you have done is you have truly worked to bridge the world and the culture of a subsistence lifestyle into today's cash economy. And you've done so in a way that really does attempt to strike that balance is commendable, and I think you have been recognized for it. Your efforts working with the agencies to truly try to educate them so that they understand that this is not just some isolated landscape that has no inhabitants, but that you are the first inhabitants from thousands of years ago, and to show that respect to those who live in this incredible place. We're out of time, Mr. Mayor. We could talk all afternoon
Yes, we could.
about the challenges and the opportunities that you face, and the leadership with which you have led your people in these past few years. We've got a lot to be working on together in Alaska and back here, and I look forward to doing that with you. I'm pleased to have you all join us on this edition of the Alaska Report. I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
On January 12th, a massive earthquake ravaged Haiti's capital, taking the lives of hundreds of thousands of people and leaving millions more without water, food, and shelter.
During our time in public service, We've witnessed firsthand the extraordinary generosity of the American people in the face of tragedy, here at home and around the world.
And in the aftermath of the earthquake, once again, Americans came together in the spirit of our common humanity that is so characteristic of our great nation. But there's still so much to do.
We must continue helping those most in need, while also focusing on the long-term recovery of the people of Haiti.
Please join the Clinton Bush Haiti Fund and other organizations as we answer this urgent call to help the people of Haiti. Give now, because there's an opportunity for the people of Haiti to build what they want to become, not just rebuild what they used to be. Thank you.
G morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me back. Hey, did you tell your parents about us? Let's skip first period together. Did you get all my texts? Is practice over yet? Where are you at? Are you with your friends? That's L-A-A-A-A-M-M-E-E-E. Capital X, lowercase o, capital X, lowercase o.
I love you. JK. I hate you. JK.
Are you ignoring me?
We're in a huge fight right now.
Is this something I did?
I can see your lights on. I'm coming over.
Isn't a
What'd you
joke.
dream about? Me? I'm lonely. Holla back.
Holla back.
Let's try something new. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.